Welcome back to Bite Size Sports. Happy Monday and Happy New Year to some of you who we haven't seen since 2024. I think it's legally too late for me to wish people a Happy New Year. I think the window has closed, or maybe it's closing today, but I don't care. I'm doing it anyway because we also have some special guests with us, partners of mine. If you're fans of the Carnage Media podcast, Carnage Unleashed, that is, on Carnage Media PPV. Wade and Zac are with me to talk the college football semifinals. So, gentlemen, this feels weird. Normally when I'm with you, Wade is driving. So forgive me, audience, if I stumble. Welcome to you both. We'll start with you, Wade. Thank you for joining. How are you doing? And what are your feelings before we get your analysis going into the semifinals?
I've been doing great. First off, I wanted to say it's not too late to wish everybody a Happy New Year's, because I can guarantee you everybody's still writing 2024 on their papers. I did it like 3 times a day.
That's a good point.
But yeah, I'm feeling really good. For those of you who don't know, I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm feeling real good. I think Ohio State's playing that playoff football. Like when you get to talking about football teams and playoffs and how they do in the regular season versus the playoff season, Ohio State's playing that playoff season.
Playoffs? You want to talk about playoffs?
Something my beloved Indianapolis Colts know nothing about. Well, at least I'll have some solace here this week as a Notre Dame fan. But to keep me in check, or maybe for me to keep him in check, I'm normally the pessimist. We have a good buddy Zac here, our other resident Notre Dame fan. Same questions. Welcome, brother. How are you? How we feeling about this week?
I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good. You know, since I'm a Notre Dame fan, I feel really good about this just because I like good football. And, I don't know if we could get any better matchups than what we're going to get this week between Notre Dame and Penn State and Ohio State and Texas. I'm excited to see these matchups. You know, obviously I want my Irish to win and I want Ohio State to lose because I live in Ohio and dealing with Ohio State fans has been a struggle for most of my life. I really don't want to have to play them in a national championship.
As a Notre Dame fan in Columbus, Ohio, of all places, I will be afraid to go outside for the week leading up to that game. Here's just a little fun anecdote. It wasn't fun for me at the time, but not even when I first moved down here, I'd been down here for quite a while. But one of the few times I dared to venture out on a Saturday after college, and went to a local, we'll call it a suburb here in Columbus, went to a wing joint in my green Notre Dame hoodie, and the looks I got, and we weren't even playing each other that year. There was there should be no reason for the rivalry, but I got that sort of, you could hear the old Western music, some tumbleweeds blew in through the door behind me, and I was like, I don't think this town's big enough for the two of us, so I booked it the hell out of here. Again, that was on a down year when we weren't even playing each other. Notre Dame was a joke, so I can't imagine how Notre Dame fans will feel here in Columbus. But both teams will have to take care of business first, and we will be previewing each game specifically. But before we do that, there's been a lot to digest just about what we've seen so far. So there's a couple of topics we want to bring up with all of you before we preview. Just one being a major talking point that the wrong teams got in. And we will probably start with that one, but I want to also add something for the audience to chew on until we get to it. I find it very interesting that the first year we have more than 4 teams in a playoff, none of those top 4 teams made it to the semifinals. We've heard about this in the pros before. Sometimes the bye week is a bad thing in football. People have that debate all the time. Would you rather play in the wild card or have the extra week to get healthy? So we'll see how that impacts the future. But I mention these both together because in a way they're kind of tied up, because you have feedback on, well, the wrong teams got in, and some people like me argued from the beginning, well, the wrong teams are in the top 4, because with all due respect to Arizona State, I didn't believe that being just a conference champion, I didn't think based on merit they were anywhere close to the top 5. I think they should have been maybe like an 8 or 9. What were they ranked at the time? 11?
15th, I think.
Yeah, they're back. They're
They're like
even further.
Between 14 and 16, I think.
They were 14th, and who they played was like 15th, and then Clemson was 16th, if I'm not mistaken, and that's why Clemson was ranked 12th.
Yeah, so that brings up the big question, though, is like, I mean, obviously it's the first year of the playoffs, right? They are going to have to mold the playoffs into something that works. For me, I don't think conference championships, like you winning your conference, puts you in the top 4. Because, I mean, SMU, they got blown out.
But they weren't champions, though, either.
That's true. But then you got, like, Arizona State, who made it a game at the end, but that first, like, 3 quarters was horrendous.
Now, mind you, when they had came up with these playoffs, though, you had 5 solid conferences. Okay, you had the Big Ten, SEC, the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC. So if you look at how it is now, okay, so Texas was Big 12. All right, well, there's one of them, and look, they're in the final. Okay, yep. So you got one technically, if you really want to think about it. I mean, this is their first year in the SEC. You've got, Oregon, who was Pac-12, so there's another one. And Pac-12 doesn't even exist right now, not until 2026. So when 2026 comes back, they'll be eligible to get back in and all that stuff. But
it'll be the Mountain West.
But who are they going to have? I'm just being honest. I mean, it's going to be a building, but I'll get into that later because I think that that's something that we're going to have to look forward to. But with the design that they had and how the alignment with all of the help me out, Wade. I would mess up on everything, so you can always jump in there and say like, "Hey, you're thinking of this word." No, with all the conferences though, with the realignment, I think that really messed up the plans that they had because we would have had it. It would have been better. The top 4 would have been better. Is all I'm saying. Is you wouldn't have had Arizona State in there, and you wouldn't have had Boise State in there. You would have had Texas, Oregon. I'm trying to think here. Georgia still, and what other conferences am I thinking of? The ACC. You would have Clemson. Clemson would have been in there. What other conference am I missing there? SEC, Big Ten,
Big 12. I'm trying to think.
Did you say the Pac-12 already?
Pac-12 would have been Oregon.
Yep. Yeah, you did.
Big 12 would have been Texas.
Nate's probably on it. What up, Nate, by the way? He says Texas. We're past 3 minutes. Yeah, Texas is absolute ass. And Quinn Ewers is going to regret that he transferred from OSU. I can't wait to talk about that one.
Yeah.
And that's the matchup really that I look forward to talking about is Will Howard versus Quinn Ewers in the passing game. Because what's his name? I think it's Golden. Texas has a very good receiver. Mind you, he's not a freshman that's dominant, but he's still pretty good. But anyway, I digress. I just want to say hi to Nate there. So we were talking about did the right teams get in, and you were going through the conference championships. So go back to you, Zach.
Yeah. So just getting to the point of, it's messed up now. And that's because what the committee had planned before has changed with the realignment of the conferences, plain and simple. And now that you had blowouts with 14 playoffs. I mean, Notre Dame's guilty as charged on that. Let's be honest. Every time they've been in the playoffs, they got blown out. First time Clemson, I know, because I was there.
I feel like there were more blowouts than there were good games, or what we used to call ESPN classics back. That whole era, I believe, of the 14 playoffs will be remembered for lobsided, kind of boring finishes.
And I think this will help root it out. I really do. And with your NIL deals, no kid is going to sit for 3 years and wait to play like they used to. So everyone's going to transfer. It's going to balance everything out. So you're not going to have Ohio State like they are right now, where they're just stacked. Where it's like, oh well, here's a whole bunch of core people going to the NFL. Well, guess what? Right up behind them, another core of people who are going to go to the NFL and play too. You're gonna get that spread out. Now that you have 12 teams that can go, and you're guaranteed 5 conference champions, you're going to start seeing disbursement downward. And then those little conferences are going to grow. Like the AAC, you might start seeing a team from the AAC every once in a blue moon that goes to the transfer portal, might be able to grab some people and make a run that's kind of like an SMU. They come in, they get smoked, but hey, they appeared in the playoffs.
Good or an IU. Yep. I mean, IU did the same thing. It was like 27 transfers. And to your point, Zach, I think before the final whistle had blown, or maybe the very next morning, I see transfer commitments to IU. There were players out there. I think the quarterback from Cal, a couple other players who clearly, the playoffs aren't even over yet, and IU's still getting transfers. They are looking to continue that rebuild. It's almost like it's not even a rebuild. It's like the initial build of a contender. And I do agree. I agree with both of you, because I don't want to. Wade had touched on no longer thinking that conference championships should matter as far as seeding, right? Wade, is that what you're saying?
As far as seeding,
no longer. And I agree with that. And so I wanted to turn that back to you, Zach, to see if you agree with us, because I think if you're going to do 8, 12, whatever, I hope they don't go beyond 16, but we see what's happening in college basketball, where they're looking to expand it again, and you start to get worried about these things. But let's just say for now, we'll stick with 12, unless you have a different idea. But do you agree with us, Zach, that the conference championships should not be, maybe at best, I'll offer a compromise. If you won your conference championship, you can get some kind of home field advantage or whatever. Like if you're USC and you win your conference, you can play your playoff game in the Rose Bowl. I don't know. I don't care if you want to add some sort of a bonus to being a conference champion, but it shouldn't count into your seeding. And what do you think about that? Should it just be 1 through 8, 1 through 12?
I agree, but I'm going to throw something at you. I heard someone talk about this, and I kind of like this idea, where they said, if we are going to say that, we want to give credit to conference champions, well, if they want to buy, they have to be at least in like the top 8 or something, and if they want to actually get in, they've got to be at least in the top 16 ranked, if they even want to get into the playoffs. I like that idea. I wouldn't mind if that was the idea, but I like it better where it's, hey, what's the final rankings? Where you got them? Okay, that's your seeding. Plain and simple. Just because you won a conference championship doesn't mean you should get the buys. Now, I can understand still the argument of saying, well, Notre Dame doesn't play a conference championship, so they shouldn't get the first round bye. If that's how they want to play it, sure, whatever. I'm okay with that too for Notre Dame being an independent.
Yeah, and wouldn't that lead to more, at least generally speaking, I think it would lead to better schedules, as far as more difficult like teams aren't going to completely schedule cupcakes in the out of conference, because you're going to need a key win or two in order to actually make a case. Because if you just play Holy Cross 6 times, you're not going to be able to cut it, especially if you're an independent. Because some of these teams, if you're a top 2 or 3 team in a major conference on either side, there's got to be a ton of fear about, well, let's just play easy teams on the road, focus all of our attention in conference, because if we can win those games, then we're just in, and then we don't have to worry about getting gypped out because we actually played somebody good in week 2 or week 1. It's not as bad as it's been previously. I knew we do see teams do that, but what do you think, Wade? Do you agree with what Zach's saying here? You have anything to add to it?
Yeah, I was going to say, I was listening to a video and they had an interesting take, and it was kind of like, because this is never going to be a perfect science. It's somebody's always going to hate something, but to kind of eliminate that, like winning your conference and you get that bye, stretch it out to that like 16 team playoffs, eliminate that bye, and then it's just your rankings from there. And it's really like kind of you're playing to get a good seed to play the lesser seeds, obviously, for an easier route, per se, for lack of a better term, to that national championship. But it eliminates that conference, the conference championship kind of debate there, and if you get the bye week. So that's I kind of like that. Like, eliminate the bye week. The conference kind of goes out the window. You don't got to really worry about that as much. Obviously, it can play a factor if you wanted to in seeding wise, but people won't feel gypped out for not getting a bye.
I like that a lot. And that, interestingly enough, I'm glad that we talked about both of these oddities at the same time, because what you just said kind of goes back to what I've mentioned before about the top 4 teams not even making it this far. So on one hand, you have to say the playoffs are definitely working, because clearly at least those 5 through 8 teams deserve to be there. They've proven that. They are now into the Final 4. So, yeah, maybe that 16 just saves it. There will always be a bubble. Again, back to college basketball. There's still a bubble at 68. They're talking about making it, I think, 76 now. And, of
Let's
course,
just put them all in.
Yeah, right. The guy proposing is saying, well, this would be logistically the last time we could add, because there's only so much time between conference championships and the tournament to the actual first round to start. But I will remind folks at home, because I'm an old man and I can do these things now. March Madness used to take place in March, wouldn't you know it? Now,
what?
I think this second round, it's already April at that point, right? Like now it's like the last week of March. So let's not act like they're not willing to expand and drag this thing out. Soon it will be May Madness. They push it any further, they can just tweak that a little bit. But yeah, let's just have a round robin. Everybody just play each other once. We'll do like a ladder kind of deal. Yeah, they'll figure it out. But yeah, there will always be teams that get screwed. So you really, whether it's 16, 18, if they let the whole top 25 in at the end of the year, no matter where you draw that line, there'll always be somebody standing on the outside in the rain saying, I should be in there. I deserve it over those 2 guys. So that's unavoidable, but I like where you're going with this one, Wade. Maybe getting rid of a bye altogether, then we don't have to worry about any of this conference championship nonsense, because some of these are a shell of themselves. And conversely, there are times where, this happened probably 15, 20 years ago. I know it's happened since, but you remember the Ohio State-Michigan year where they played in the Big Ten championship, 1 versus 2, and almost the entire world agreed based on the eye test. Those were just the 2 best teams, and they should probably run it back in the national championship, but that just couldn't quite happen. And I don't know. I'm wondering if we realign these things and it's just about top 1 through top 16 and the conference stuff matters less. I mean, these bowl games used to mean a whole hell of a lot too. So I think the sport can move past it. So I don't know. I'm interested in that. And you mentioned the NIL, and I want to get this comment in from John. What up, John? You guys can see him tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern talking the NFL. Says UNC's NIL deals paid out in Belichick's.
They will be. They will be.
Yes,
They will be.
which is a great comment. But we'll start with you, Wade, and then Zach. Any thoughts on Belichick to North Carolina? If will he turn it around, and if so, in how many years?
Yes, I believe he will turn around, only for the fact that NIL deals exist. So this transfer portal, the NIL deals, I think Belichick can build a team way faster now. Obviously, kids coming up playing football, and they can go to the UNC. It's not like a big Power 5 like team, so they have more of an ability to play and get on that field. So you're going to get people transferring there because Belichick, obviously the greatest NFL coach to live, right? Like, he's going to bring so much talent to them. I mean, you see what Deion Sanders did in 3 years at Jackson. Was it Jackson State?
Yeah, and then Colorado.
In just two or 3 years. I think last year they were like under 500, and then they're a winning team now and ranked.
Right, and unfortunately, and what we'll see, I think, when Deion inevitably leaves, is how quickly that falls apart. You used to have this window, and Zach knows this well as a Notre Dame fan, where a coach would get hired, and you'd think he was pretty good because he'd be coaching the last guy's recruits for his first 2 or 3 years, and then that third year would come along, and it's like, oh, this guy. He maybe hasn't recruited super well, and you don't quite know it right away that things aren't working out. But now with NIL, if a personality like Deion leaves, and so many of those people are there more likely for him than they are for the school of Colorado, you can see that building empty real quick, and see them follow him again, like Signetti at IU. These happens all the time. I mean, both sports now. I mean, I've seen that happen before NIL. When Toledo hired Milwaukee's coach, I think 2 or 3 players transferred with him, and that was back when you had to sit out a year to do it. So when a kid's there to play for a coach, that's who they're going to play for, and that will mean a hell of a lot more to them.
For sure.
And
I mean, Zach, sorry to cut you off. I was going to say, for a point here, it's like, Zach, I think you were telling me that you was reading an article or something about like a quarter of the team, half a team of Marshall went to the transfer portal.
30 players.
Because coach transferred.
They cut him.
Well, not the
after
coach,
a winning
sorry.
record. He had like 10 wins, and they cut him.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me figure out.
Jesus, that's as bad as when they had that airplane accident. Remember that? It's the only time they lost more players. And I'm sorry, that was a horrible joke. It's been 50 years, all right? There's been enough time.
Hold on.
It'd be like an NFL prep school.
What conference is Marshall in? Are they in the MAC?
Oh, they were Conference USA. They might be MAC now.
No.
And while he looks that up, I will agree with Wade's take on UNC and add to it that it doesn't hurt when you have that Michael Jordan alumni money to fund your NIL. And on top, like, just that atmosphere too, right? Because depends, you still have to fill the ranks. That's going to be the most interesting thing in college football, is how will these top teams have any depth when the backups, if they're talented enough, they can go get paid to go play somewhere else and start. How are you going to convince a guy to be second string? So I feel like there's going to be a lot of top heavy rosters, and we'll see how that works. But if you're trying to attract some of those 3-star recruits who maybe don't have any money or future options in the NFL, going to a great school like that also has the atmosphere of, well, we've got this great basketball team. We got all these great athletics to go to. There could be a lot of reasons, I think, to go to Carolina, but it all starts with Belichick and probably ends with him. I don't know how much his son will be able to keep that going, but we'll see. If they win enough, a lot of people, if you go back far enough in time, would have laughed their ass off if you told them Clemson would be relevant for a decade. So, Zach, did you find what you were looking for, sir?
They were 10-3, so they won the Sun Belt Championship, and they had to opt out of their bowl game because they didn't have enough players to play. So
That's
yeah,
wild.
they released their coach that went 10-3.
How do you do that? That's so,
Or they didn't re-up his contract. That might have been it. So don't quote me on that, but I do know that they didn't want him back.
wow. He must have been very opinionated, or there was maybe something outside of the field that was causing them
Might
to
have butted heads with the AD, kind of like Lou Holtz had to deal with at Notre Dame. Still won't get over that one.
Stupid.
Could have had him well into the 90s.
But instead, we've got
Bob
not
Davies.
even that many good memories. Yeah,
Bob Davies.
That was the end. That's why Zach still has Lou Holtz on his dresser right there on his desk.
Signed and everything.
Yeah, there's
Love you,
nobody
Lou.
else.
And that's one reason why I've got a bone to pick with Ryan Day. You don't be coming after Lou Holtz now, Ryan Day. Come on now.
Dude, Ryan Day is your little brother who, like, you're playing a game. Any of those of you who've had siblings, my brother's 15 years younger than me. So there was a certain time where I couldn't play video games without him wanting to play, and he by no means was capable of playing, and I wasn't going to let him ruin my time. So I'd do that move where the controller wasn't plugged in, and I'd hand him the controller, and he would just be that's Ryan Day's career as a head football coach.
Hey, he was on the
He doesn't
chopping
have
block
the
coming
slightest fucking idea what he is doing, but all this great talent just pours down like a faucet. I mean, we could coach that team to 11 wins every single year, gentlemen. Sorry, Wade, defend your guy.
Well, I was gonna say, I was gonna highlight. Yeah, he was on the chopping block. Everyone wanted him gone after that Michigan game. Like, it wouldn't matter if Michigan was last in the nation and we were freaking first, or they were first and we were last and we lose. That game just means so much for the organization, and he just has not been able to really win against Michigan. And that was like the last straw, and people are like, he's got to go. Enter the playoffs. Woo! Ohio
you care more
State.
about a national championship or beating Michigan?
Some of those sickos
that's
would
the big
say
Ohio
Michigan.
State question, isn't
That
it?
is the big Ohio State question.
And they're the sickos to me, where it's like, all right, we get it, you're rivals, dude. Like, but you don't want a national championship more? That's weird.
Yeah.
Hey, that's also what makes it, though, one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports.
It's
they
true.
hate each other that much. That's what makes it so beautiful.
Yeah. But I'm saying that playoff Ohio State right now, how they're playing in the playoffs is phenomenal. That's how they should be playing all regular season.
That's what we all thought they were going to play like.
Yeah, I felt like
all
they were
year
just
long.
Very conservative, and like they started so slow. Obviously, I get in the first game, you're going to start slow, it's the start of the season. But don't get me wrong, they were putting a whooping on the teams, but they started off really slow.
Mm-hmm. Their second half. It's either that or Ryan Day's just that good at making adjustments at halftime. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Maybe him and his coaches are just really that good at coaching, and is good at making, all those changes. And it's not like he doesn't have the talent to do it. I mean, he's got the best talent, in my opinion, in all of college football right now.
Yeah, I mean, Jeremiah Smith is definitely.
They have a
number one receiver. Number one receiver in the nation, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'll be gone. He'll be gone in 2 years. He'll be gone.
People are talking about tanking for him now. It's like, and his last name's not even Manning. I haven't heard about it this young since Arch Manning, was in high school. Where they're like, oh, I can't wait to tank for this guy. And it's a wide receiver. It's amazing how talented the team is, and we might as well get to that preview of Texas and Ohio State. And there's a lot of factors. There's one in particular that I want to cover, but I know we'll get to that with the QB matchup. But Wade, you are our Ohio State fan here. What are your thoughts on this matchup here? And feel free to talk a little bit about that Buckeye playoff ball you've been looking for that you finally got to see. But what do you think about this matchup?
I think it's going to be a great matchup for Ohio State because right now Ohio State's playing with confidence. They are not – Howard's not like playing like in the beginning of the season where he was hesitant to make decisions. He was frantic in the pocket when he was getting pressured. Right now he's got a clear mission and he's executing very well. And Ohio State's opened up their playbook and it's like I said, playing with so much confidence that it's hard for me to think that Texas will win because they are playing with not a whole lot of confidence, especially after that Arizona State game. You could always get that like bounce back, like, hey, we just escaped with a win. The refs gave us that. Should have been a targeting. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Could even talk about that field goal that was actually probably a field goal for Arizona State too.
Yeah.
Which one was that?
The one that got tipped and then bounced up.
Oh, the one that
uprights.
bounced in. Yeah.
By rules, that's still
3
technically
points.
A field goal.
Yeah, that's
3
true.
points.
In that game, man, I hate to dog on Texas, and I also hate to be too negative on what's his name, Scat Bo, the fifth in the Heisman running, who stat wise put out a monster game, but by the end of that, I mean, this dude he barely played in the third quarter, I think, because he was exhausted,
throwing up.
He's throwing up
on the sideline,
throwing up on the sideline. He's cramping. One of his touchdowns, an offensive lineman literally picked him up and carried him 3 yards. I don't know. I mean, that was the Bush push times 3 right there. It was absolutely absurd. I don't know if that's even legal, but this guy, as talented as he may be, he was the entire offense, and he was basically one-legged out there, and he still carved them up almost, 200 yards plus scrimmage?
I'll tell you here in a minute.
Yeah, he carried that whole team on his back. And
he looked like he was moving in slow motion. Again, like hell of a warrior. I'm not like there was a lot of usage in that game. Again, but by the end of it, it looked like it reminded me of backyard football or something on Thanksgiving when you got your older cousin there who's in high school and you guys are all in elementary and middle school and he's just running around doing whatever he wants. Not really. It doesn't matter if the route's good or not. But in this case, he was the smallest, slowest dude on the field doing that. It looked like everybody else was drunk out there. What's going on?
30 carries for 143 yards.
Ran angry.
And the receiving yards, Zach, too. He almost had 100 receiving yards.
He had 8 receptions for 99.
Yeah, dude. So it's like that's some rookie mode stats. Like if somebody bragged to you, if they sent you a screenshot in your CFP dynasty, Zach, you'd be like, all right, up the difficulty, pal. On your mic.
Be my brother-in-law.
Yeah. But that's the thing, though. Texas is known for their really good defense, and it didn't show there in that second half of that Arizona State game.
Well, it didn't show against any of the times they played Georgia either.
Oh, and that's right. Plus the TD pass he threw that was way underthrown. Yeah. That the receiver came under.
He got 42. He had 42 passing yards too. That's so right. I mean, the kid had there's 200.
It's like 200 just under 300.
284 all-purpose yards.
That is wild. And so again, with all due respect, what is Ohio State's offense going to do to that defense? I just feel like it's going to be Swiss cheese, man. I think this game could be over. I would not be surprised if Ohio State's very comfortable at halftime. If we're looking at like, wow, okay, another one of those boring semifinals. I don't know that Texas really belongs. It took them a miracle to get here against Arizona State. Like some of those plays were amazing. Mm-hmm. That third or fourth down, I think it was a fourth down connection to Golden that went into the end zone. And then, I mean, Arizona's defense just fell apart. By the time they got to overtime, Texas was scoring like on the first play. It was Arizona State had nothing left to give. But I just don't see it. You look at the stats, you watch the tape, as Nate mentioned, Quinn Ewers, he says he's going to regret he transferred from OSU. I may disagree with you, Nate. I think Howard might just be better. And that just is what it is. So what would it have mattered if he didn't transfer? He wouldn't be playing. And there are some other Ohio State fans that share that sentiment that Ewers was just not good enough to play there. Wade, what do you think? What do you think just about the battle in general? And are you happy with how it worked out with who stayed at OSU?
Yeah. I just think Ewers didn't meet the Ohio State standard. We were known for really great quarterbacks and we're known for really great receivers. And you sprinkle in a couple running backs here and there like Zeke. And I think, he just wasn't good enough to start. Howard was better. Although I didn't think in the beginning of the season Howard was playing like an elite Ohio State quarterback at first, especially when you look at that Oregon game, the first one. And just a poor decision with 12 seconds left to run.
Oh, yeah.
And not like you're almost in field goal range, or they might have been.
They were.
We were doing a show, so I'm watching it on my phone, like just the stats as we're doing the Carnage Media show. So, but just like, it was like third down. 12 seconds left and you panic and you run. That wasn't a great decision. Now, fast forward to the end of the season in these playoffs, he's playing like an elite Ohio State quarterback. Someone that could potentially do really well in the NFL if he's playing like this.
That would be interesting. Yeah, I imagine to the casual fan, if you took the names off, if you just showed the stats, people would be surprised and they would give Ewers credit for Howard's stats. And if you look at his numbers, you would think, okay. And it's interesting. I wonder how it will translate because for Ohio State, it has been a mixed bag. Now, coming from a Notre Dame fan, I don't want to talk about the quarterbacks we've had get drafted. All right. That's not a mixed bag. It's all bad since it's Joe Montana and then everybody else, maybe Joe Theismann. That's how far back you got to go. But with Ohio State, it's almost like 50-50. It's kind of like a coin flip as to whether or not they will pan out in the league. But Ewers is the guy we've heard about since high school. Another one of those guys, like we've been hearing about him for a long time. And Howard has sort of just.
When did he transfer out of Ohio State, by the way? What year did he transfer out? Quinn.
Good question.
Because I want to bring up, I don't know, someone else who transferred out of Ohio State and is doing fantastic. Was he not Ohio State quarterback material?
Who's that?
Oh, Joe Burrow.
I figured that's where you're going. I knew it was coming.
was he not a Ohio State caliber quarterback?
He was, but I forgot who he was going up against though.
Wasn't there an incumbent? Like, wasn't it? Maybe it was.
He left when he was a freshman, though.
Yeah, but was it like Cardale or somebody who was a junior or a senior? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like one of them.
One of those situations where the best guy may not play because the last guy did some nice things for you last year.
So maybe if Quinn would have stayed at Ohio State, maybe he would have had better coaching. Maybe he could have developed differently. 3 years is a long time. It's a long time to grow as a player. So he could have been a better quarterback at Ohio State.
He would have gotten. I mean, just imagine all the work those receivers do on their own. Mm-hmm. You look like a much better quarterback, and that's the other caveat. The other kind of but when it comes to Howard is, well, when you get to the pros, your receivers aren't going to be that much better than the DBs they're lined up against over and over, week after week like that. Not everybody's going to be so open all the time. And that is something to keep an eye on. So sometimes I think, with the way Ohio State has become wide receiver that might be one of the situations where you sit it out and you don't take the NIL money and you say, if I can be the quarterback there next year, that's probably worth it. If I can go be the QB there for 2 years and play with at least 2 or 3 NFL level wide receivers the entire time on my roster, maybe that's the move for my career. Ask Brady Quinn about how having NFL talent catching your passes can make you look like an NFL talent throwing it, even when you're not. Jeff Samardzija got 2 people drafted.
Instead went and played baseball.
And they had Stovall and Arnaz. They had a lot of guys that made the league out there. Julius Jones, everybody but Brady Quinn. But that's my key example of sometimes a quarterback is Ken Dorsey. Sometimes a dude is just playing on the most stacked offense of all time, and he looks like he's good, but he's just a ball distributor to an immensely talented outside there. So while Wade steps out, Zach, we haven't had a chance to hear your full thoughts, I guess, on OSU versus Texas. So you and I have no horse in the race. Well, that's actually not true. Yeah.
I want Texas. I want Texas to win. Plain and simple. And it comes down to because Ohio State just looks fantastic. And if I'm being realistic, I don't know if Notre Dame would be able to match up very well against Ohio State because obviously, I want Notre Dame to win and go to the national championship. We've had a drought for how many years? I want one now. I want one while I'm alive. And looking at how Arizona State ran the ball on them, yeah, obviously, of course, I don't want that. Notre Dame is a run first type of team. So the thing is Texas's D-line going to be able to put pressure on Howard? That's what it's going to come down to. Because if they can, they have a chance. Texas is going to have to play basically a perfect game. They have to win the turnover battle. They have to. They're going to have to not have any penalties. Because I feel like the only way that they are going to make this, that they're going to be able to win this, is if they keep it the points low. If it's a shootout, Ohio State's going to win it.
I think if it's a high-scoring game, both defenses are bad. Ohio State pulls it off because we have the better, more electrifying offense.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess they're going to have to figure out if they want to double team Jeremiah or not, because they give too many man-on-man coverage with him, and that could be their downfall of the game too.
How has Ohio State been? I don't watch a whole lot of Ohio State football. How have they been against mobile quarterbacks? Have they even dealt with a mobile quarterback? And what I'm referencing is obviously not Quinn. I'm referencing the special package they put in the red zone. And it is Kev's favorite guy. He wants to talk about him all the time. Manning.
Arch Manning.
Because
who would have thought? Who would have thought someone would put a Manning quarterback in for his mobility? Isn't that something?
That is something. They've done pretty well.
Who do they play? Hold on, I want to bring up Ohio State's schedule. Who do they play that would have a mobile quarterback though?
What? Oregon. Not really. I mean, Penn State, not really.
No, Penn State. He doesn't really run.
He doesn't run much. Like they have. I don't feel like they've played too many. There aren't that many in the Big Ten. So that are incredibly mobile.
All I'm getting. So that's one thing that Ohio State hasn't been tested on. That might be the only thing that could. Oh no, he won't stay. Well, I don't think he'll stay in Texas. I think this, no matter what, is Quinn's last year at Texas. So I think he'll either enter the portal or enter the draft, because we all know who's behind him and what everybody wants. They all want Manning, but
yeah, they want Manning now. A lot of them, yeah, his seat is hot, man.
But that's one thing for Ohio State that I haven't seen them have to deal with really, is a mobile quarterback. How are they going to deal with it? And I kind of want to see. I want to see him in there because I want to see how Ohio State reacts. And the reason I want that is because, let's be honest, Notre Dame has a mobile quarterback. He is an athlete playing quarterback, in my opinion. That is Riley Leonard. Sorry.
Did he play lacrosse in college? I feel like he's just a lacrosse player that throws it decent. Because early in the season.
That's Faison. Faison's an actual lacrosse player winning national championships.
There we go. Yeah. Because, Riley, it just felt like he was that just super athlete, going back to the days of, the college football game is back. I just can't afford the system. But going back to the days of NCAA 14, when you'd get that athlete recruit, and you're like, oh, yeah, this guy can't throw worth a damn, but he's got a lot of speed. I could run some options with him.
Yep.
And it's not even that he's not the fastest guy in the world, but like they call quarterback power with Riley Leonard a lot in the first month of the season. It felt like that was their best play. If they need a third down, QB power. If it was fourth and goal, QB power. That was how it was getting in. So what I like about him is he gets the tough yards, and he's just athletic enough, right? You're not gonna you're probably not going to see him break a 50, 60 yarder in either of the next two games if they make it. But
Tim Tebow 0.5.
It feels that way, especially after the previous transfer quarterbacks Notre Dame has had. But no, I'm with you there too, because to foreshadow where obviously everyone at this table would want to see it go, Notre Dame versus OSU, which is even Lee, it sounds like, thinks that Notre Dame would give Ohio State a better game than Penn State. And that would be it's the same game that Zach is saying Texas would have to play to beat Ohio State, is what Notre Dame would want to do anyway, right? Run the ball with their two stud running backs and a quarterback that can keep it. Fun fact, I know we're not previewing that game yet, but Penn State's leading receiver, who's their tight end, Warren, by the way, 98 receptions. Notre Dame's leading receiver has 36 receptions. And yes, they spread the ball around, and maybe that might be yards. So you might want to correct. You can double check me on that one, Zach. That could be the yardage total, but
37 receptions. Bo Collins with a whopping 458 yards.
That's where, because I think maybe it's Faison. Somebody has like 700 yards, I think, is maybe there. But anyway, so Notre Dame's not going to throw it a ton. They're going to, and when they do, it's going to be quick hitters. It's going to be slants. It's going to be screens. But they're going to hope to the best defense in this case will be a good offense. The problem with that theory is that Jeremiah Love could take 196 yards to the house, and there won't, it'll just be, and then you're trading
without the knee brace,
right? And then you're trading scores, which the shootout you don't want to be in, because Ohio State's quarterback, in my opinion, Howard's just better. As much as I like Riley Leonard, he's there's a reason he transferred to Notre Dame from Duke.
He's smart.
He's exactly. It's because he loves that ACC basketball, like I was talking about before. All right, back to Wade for this. Before we get any final prediction for you on OSU Texas, do you have any other thoughts about the matchup?
No, not really. I think Ohio State's going to roll with that momentum. They're going to have that high power offense, and if Texas defense can't handle it, it's going to be a bad one for them. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be like a super big blowout. I think we win by 2.5 touchdowns.
That would cover it on the spread, I think. I'm going to look that up real quick.
Is it a 14-point? It's not a 14-point.
No, I don't think that's the spread. But, Zach, what do you think? How do you think this game goes? Do you agree with Wade? It's going to be OSU by 2 scores?
I think it's going to be OSU. But what I think is going to happen is I think Texas is going to have a Ohio State moment. But it's still not going to be enough to overcome the Buckeyes, because the Buckeyes have got they've got too many weapons on offense. And their defense is stellar on top of that. As long as they can establish the pass, that's Ohio State. And it's not the run like normal. If Ohio State can establish the pass quick and fast, Ohio State will have no problem with them. But I do see Texas having an Ohio State moment like they did after Michigan. And I see them saying, okay, hey, this is the team. Everyone's think that they're going to make it to the national championship. They already won the national championship. They thought the last game was supposed to be the actual national championship. We've got something to prove, blah, 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 blah. They're going to come with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And I think that they feel a little bit embarrassed by the Arizona State about how to go into overtime to win that game. And I think they're going to try to take their frustration out on Ohio State and just come up short I think Ohio State's going to beat them by 10.
I like it. I like it. Now, the spread officially, as of right now, and this is per ESPN Bet, so take that as you will, is Ohio State by 5.5 points. The over-under is 53.5. Yeah, you'd take them. I know Wade would take them. And I would as well. I agree with the script that Zach just laid out, so I'm not going to rehash it too much. I'll maybe piggyback on it a little bit and just say, yeah, I agree. I think Texas is going to come out strong, and partially, potentially, because you mentioned Ohio State had that big chip on their shoulder game last week. Sometimes I think when you have that too early, that can be a little bit to your own detriment, right? Like if you come in having just blown the doors off of Oregon, maybe there's a chance that this Texas team that barely beat Scatabo and the boys, that maybe you take them a little too lightly in the first quarter or so, just maybe not as dialed in as you could be because you're like, well, man, these guys ain't Oregon. And not that I'm saying that it will be like that, and it's coach's job to make sure that it's not that way. But if this game is close, I think that's why it happens. It's just because Ohio State, who we've already mentioned throughout the season, they've been prone to some slow starts. It's not happening every week, but it's there. It could be there. We've seen it happen, but I do think when it comes down the stretch, and you look at ball control, no doubt about it, Howard takes better care of the ball than Ewers. He's a little bit more accurate with the ball, makes better decisions. You don't see him make two, with the exception of that one big one at Oregon. And since then, you don't see a lot of Howard bonehead plays where you're like, man, what was he doing there? He extended that play for way too long. He seems to know the limitations of his athletic ability, and he's got, I don't know. So I think they're going to be, I got to pick a point total. So yeah, give me a straight up 7, 1 touchdown victory. Wade said close to 2. Zach said 10. We're getting closer and closer to that spread, but all three of us say Buckeyes are going to hit that spread, 53.5 points. Either you guys got thoughts on the over under?
I'm going to go under.
Ooh, Wade?
I think I'll take it the over there.
Yeah, I'm liking the over too, although I shouldn't, based on what happened to me with the Vikings and the Lions last night. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Before we transition to the other semifinal, Lee brings up something that I just have to ask you guys about to see if you have an opinion. Have you heard about the allegations, the pending lawsuit against Fox Sports and several of their personalities and an executive? I will run through it briefly. It sounds like nobody's heard it. A hairdresser, forgive me, I cannot quite remember her name, and it's one that I couldn't pronounce properly anyway, so my apologies. Feel free to look this up. It's all over the internet. I believe, former hairdresser, I don't think she's currently employed there, has allegations, and I'll just try to list these out pretty quickly and get your guys' thoughts, then we'll get back to the football. But there's a reason I'm getting to this, and it has to do with Colin Cowherd, so bear with me for a second. The allegations are that Skip Bayless offered this hairdresser $1.5 million to sleep with him, and that was turned down. And you might be wondering, well, that's odd. It's just a him thing, right? Why is Fox Sports getting sued for what he did? The rest of her allegations include essentially a culture of sleeping your way to the top. She calls out Joy Taylor for allegedly sleeping with an executive and Emmanuel Acho at the same time, and talks about how she said to the hairdresser, because she was Joy Taylor's specific hairdresser. So she's like, oh, I became friends with Miss Taylor, and I would meet her out for lunch, and there'd be this rich older dude at dinner. I didn't know who he was until one day I saw him at work at the office, and I'm like, wait, that's our boss. In the lawsuit, she alleges that Joy Taylor claimed that her plan was to accuse the man of some misdoings, let's just say. Some, I don't know if it would be full-blown grape charges or what, but that her plan was to get what she needed out of him and then, get him out of the way. So yeah, we've had all these allegations. Shannon Sharp has been mentioned. I don't know if he was been listed as having actually done anything, but the funny part is Skip Bayless in the suit is alleged to have gotten really angry because he thought the hairdresser was sleeping with Shannon Sharp, but she wouldn't sleep with him. So like that's kind of funny. I'm sorry, like technically none of this is funny, but that part, just the fact that like that wasn't a gimmick, he really just had to beat Shannon at everything. He's like, wait a minute, it's my turn. You said it was my turn. Just like, dude, that wasn't a gimmick. That was real, huh? But on all of that, my guys, Colin Cowherd is mentioned one time in this 42-page document, and all they said was Colin was always very nice and professional. So as much as I hate some of this man's takes, as much as he has made me pull out some of the few hairs I have left in my head, I wanted to salute Colin Cowherd, because despite all these allegations being lobbed, which again, innocent until proven guilty. I'm just telling you what's being alleged. They didn't want to say anything bad about Colin. So apparently he is one of the nicest dudes of all time to work with. And I guess I'm going to have to go a little softer on some of his horrible NFL takes. I swear to God, that dude only watches Sunday night, Monday night, and Thursday night. He's not watching anything else. He's just he's looking at the stats in the newspaper and giving his takes based off that. I digress, gentlemen. Any thoughts? We'll start with you, Zach. Any thoughts on that? What I just told you about the Fox Sports lawsuit?
Hey, if they did it, get rid of them. Good riddance. I'm tired of hearing about all this stuff all the time, if I'm being honest. If it's not one company, it's another. Good. If they did it, let's take people out, get rid of them. Let's clean everything up. Plain and simple. I mean, that's what I've got on it. Hey, look into it. If they did it, throw them away, throw them in jail. Give them what they deserve.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Just you gotta take it all serious, right? You gotta at least look into it, do your due diligence. But there is. It's a culture. Sometimes women do lie. Sometimes they don't. They don't get any consequences if they did lie, right? But you do see a lot of all that kind of activity when you get into these big companies, especially like when you get in the big names, Hollywood and all that stuff. It's a common occurrence.
And it's not even there. I think people would be surprised at how small the amount of power it is that could get to any individual's head, because it's at some of the small companies too that you hear about it, where you're like,
that's the thing. It's the power,
really?
And ego,
which has been more evident. In which Skip Bayless, that's the one where it's just like it's innocent till proven guilty. I just have to keep reminding myself, because he just kind of sounds like the thing that evil munchkin would do. But I digress. Like as Lee said, the bad part is that it happens all the time, everywhere. I agree with what you both have said. The world's a lot better place without people like that in power. Get them away, and we'll see where it goes. But I will leave this topic with this thought. If you're on Twitter, I don't condone these comments that were made, but just go look at what Jason Whitlock, former Fox Sports News host, had to say about the Joy Taylor situation, because he was there for some of that, and he just expressed a lot about himself. Now, this is the same guy who complained to Twitter about too many porn ads on his time feed, not understanding about how like algorithms and cookies and stuff work, and that he was being shown porn because of how much porn he was looking at on Twitter. So you can imagine the kind of commentary he might have added to this situation. So I encourage you to look into that if you would like. Might give you a laugh. I'm not sure. What we hope will not give Notre Dame fans a laugh, though, is the second semifinal game, our main event for us, at least, not for Wade. Wade's like the main event just happened. But Zach, I'll let you lead here because you're going to be a lot nicer about Notre Dame's chances than I will because I'm just a pessimist, a dirty loser. Zach, what's going to happen?
Basically, we're going to be watching another Notre Dame versus Georgia game. Plain and simple. It's going to be in the trenches is what it's going to be. Who can run the ball? The only difference is that Penn State has an actual weapon at throwing, and he won't drop it the way that Georgia does when they're wide open with nobody around them for 10 feet. Because I tell you that right now, I can't think of his name, but their tight end, as soon as if he catches, I mean, ball's thrown to him, he's grabbing it, and
Warren,
and he's going. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But the question is for Notre Dame's defense, are they going to be able to? Who are they going to put on them? I've heard that they might put Schuler on them. Okay, all right. Well, what about because our best coverages are our corners. I mean, okay, you got Watt, but Watt they normally like to blitz and stuff like that too. As a safety. So I'm not sure. And then on top of that, you got the defensive line. So everyone thought that Notre Dame's defensive line wouldn't be able to do anything. Right. And then all the starters basically got hurt and you're basically down to your third string defensive line. And look at this. Look how far they've made it already with backups, with freshmen, transfers, things like that are coming in. I don't know if they'll still be able to put that pressure, but they did put the pressure on Georgia with third string defensive linemen. So maybe it's the culture. So I'm thinking that that Notre Dame might be able to actually put some pressure on their quarterback, which I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head too. I can't
Allar?
Yeah, that's right. Drew Allar. If they can put pressure on him, that would be good for the deep threat. It won't do much, I think, for the short game, which is what that tight end is going to be good for. Getting the ball out quick, throwing to him, and doing basically what Notre Dame does, because that's what Notre Dame does. Let's get the ball out quick. Let's throw it so Riley Leonard doesn't have to be in the pocket that long. And then rely on two running backs, because that's exactly what Notre Dame does. Their offense is our offense, just a little bit better in the sense they've got a quarterback that can throw the ball and they've got a reliable tight end. Because Mitchell Evans isn't as good as he was. He was before his injury, but ever since the ACL tear, he just has not been as good and dominant.
Yeah, and the additional factor with Warren, and just for those who, if you haven't watched him play, if you're maybe a Texas fan coming into this, not watching a ton of Big Ten stuff, I mean, he runs the ball occasionally too. Like he's an athlete. He's more of a tight end. I don't think this is a good comparison size-wise. I think Warren's maybe a little bit more of the tight end body, but he's more like a Brock Bowers or what people expected Kyle Pitts to be, right? That wide receiver, that wide receiver in the tight end position. That's really what Warren's going to be. He's going to be the main guy that they go to. Like Zach said, they're going to look to get it into his hands. Where he worries me is, as you mentioned, Zach, if that pressure doesn't get home, in the red zone, that's where he's dangerous. If the quarterback can roam around, buy some extra time, because then you can just throw a jump ball and he just can go up there and get it. The kind of time he can buy his quarterback and still come up with a play, because he's phenomenal. It's going to be hard for them to completely stop him. They're going to need to contain him. And I do think it's all about getting pressure on the quarterback. I mean, we saw that last night in the NFL, right? The Lions, one of the worst pass defenses in the league, and they just blitzed all night against the Vikings. And when you get there, if the quarterback doesn't have time to throw the ball accurately, the coverage doesn't have to be perfect. And I like what you mentioned, because the D line has been banged up, but to maybe counter my own previous point, Notre Dame has the depth this year. I don't know if they'll have it next year. It seems like all those boys can play, so I don't know if the third stringers are going to stay on the third string. They might go take NIL to go play somewhere else. But, yeah, I do think it's going to be, generally speaking, a game that's just won in the trenches. This one I'm definitely taking. I haven't even looked at it. I'm taking the under. I don't know. I don't care what it is. Like, this is going to be a low-scoring game. Well, that's the spread, right? What's the over-under? I imagine it's in the 40s.
I'm not sure.
I'll take a look real quick, but 1.5.
It's going to be a defensive game, just like the Georgia game. It is. That's how Notre Dame. But that's how Notre Dame wins and dominates, because they take the ball and they just hoard it and they control it and they just run up the clock. I feel like their mentality is not striving for a touchdown, but let's strive for a first down. Let's just, because if we get enough first downs, we'll get a touchdown eventually. And I like that football. To me, that's old school football. That's old school. Let's run the ball down the middle, right at you. Let's do it.
Lee mentioning that, maybe, and I'm not saying he's saying this. I'm going to take Lee's comment and move it an extra yard down the field. He says a non-SEC championship is going to be a TV nightmare. Notre Dame has to be there to partially save the audience viewing. So the officials might have some incentive.
Awesome for viewership. Seriously, it would.
I mean, either one, right? Ohio State's massive, but Texas is one of the biggest college football brands in the world, right? Yeah. So that's not going to be bad either. We just happen to be in the region where Ohio State is dominant. And Notre Dame's everywhere. But Texas, right? I mean, shit, that state alone is bigger than most of Europe. So like there's a lot. I mean, there's gonna be a lot of viewers watching a Texas game too.
Well, yeah, that's gonna be a home field advantage for them too
But I tell you, the worst case scenario, I think, guys, is Penn State, Ohio State. If you have a Big Ten national championship, who gives a shit? Only the same households that would be watching it, no matter who was in it. Right? At that point, you're just getting the sickos.
You're just getting the sickos.
You're just getting the people who are betting on Loyola Marymount basketball after this. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to watch Penn State, Ohio State for the national championship. No, just guys like us that'll be watching that. Everybody else will be watching primetime comedy.
I still don't see. I don't think Penn State is gonna beat them though. I think Notre Dame's gonna. You were talking about Notre Dame, or we're talking about Penn State's offense a lot, but Notre Dame's offense. Riley Leonard just wins. Okay, yeah, he had that Northern Illinois loss. All right, I get that. But what has he done since? Anything and everything he can to win.
Scared us that first drive. I will say this. You can't start the way you started that IU game. You just can't. And he almost did. His first pass in the Georgia game was deflected at the line of scrimmage. So it's like
the defense came.
Stop it, all right? I swear to God, they honestly, I don't want to see him throw a pass until they've run for a first down. Because for whatever reason, his first pass of the game should be like a designed play action rollout, and he should just throw it into the fourth row into the stands and just say, okay, we are not turning the ball over on my first pass of the game. A lot of things might happen out there tonight, boys, but my first pass being an interception will not be one of them. That's what I would do.
Well, I did like the fact, though, that they did come out and they threw the ball first, because they normally run the ball, and that you catch somebody off guard doing that. I get that.
I agree.
It's unfortunate that it got tipped and then picked.
Yeah. Generally speaking, I agree with you, but
he scares me whenever he throws the ball.
He's scaring me now. Yeah, it really is. Oh my God, dude. It's a cardiac kids situation. Like, you just kind of, it's like having Fitzpatrick as your quarterback, or one of those journeymen, or like Gardner Minshew, where you're like, I mean, maybe to a better degree, but Gardner Minshew balled out in college, so maybe that is fitting. But it's just like, yeah, you're going to live or die. It's going to be fun. At least you're going to experience a lot of emotions. But Zach and I have ranted about this game quite a bit here. Wade, what are your thoughts as the objective party, and outside of that, afterwards or within that, as an Ohio State fan, who do you want to see and why?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a defensive game. It's kind of polar opposites of, each game. So Ohio State, Texas, going to be more about all the offense. Notre Dame, Penn State, all about the defense. It's going to be, I believe it's going to be a lower scoring game. I believe Notre Dame will win. I think they have the better defense. And I think their defense is going to carry them through. And that's who I want to see. I want to see an Ohio State Notre Dame game, national championship. I think that also brings a lot of views for TV, but it'd be good just so I can give you guys crap when Ohio State takes the dub.
Not on my birthday. Not on my birthday.
Yep.
Nope. Championship's on my birthday. Notre Dame's gonna win if it's on my birthday.
You get no birthday juju here.
You'll get a ton of birthday texts. It'll just be from Ohio State fans telling you to piss off.
No, it'll be from my uncle who likes to give me crap all the time. You know, when I was a kid, it's like he raised horses. So every time I help him out, he's like, "Hey, get in the stall and shove out the Notre Dame out of the stalls." Talking about the shit.
That's the first thing he said. Like, I was with him and I met his uncle for the first time. He goes, "Hey, you ready to get that Notre Dame out of the stalls?"
Jesus. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a one-way hatred. It's like, I think for the longest time, OSU fans were mad just because we also played Michigan every year, and it's like, you're not allowed. You're not in the Big Ten. You're not allowed to play Michigan every year. That's our thing, to hate Michigan. I'm like, we should be on the same side here. How am I rooting for my rival whenever they play you just because I live in this state, you assholes? Like, Jesus, come on, everybody, relax. So you want to see that? I mean, you and I are on the same page there. That is where Zach and I will disagree. Even though, if I were being completely selfish, if I was just thinking about, I want Notre Dame to win, and I don't care about what's good for college football. I don't care about what's going to be the most entertaining game. I want to see Notre Dame win and win by as many points as possible. I would be rooting for Texas. But with the idea of, again, this very, very personal on my end. I am from Indiana. I've spent most of my adult life, I've spent all of my adult life and most of my life in Ohio. Almost everyone I know is either a Notre Dame or an Ohio State fan. So for me, this would take me back to 2006 when my beloved Colts took on my father's beloved Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl. And I was like, I mean, either way, I a lot of people I know are going to be very happy. And like, it's as much as I will hate everything about Ohio State on that day, I would love to see that, because that just feels like maybe not once in a lifetime, but we haven't seen it before to my knowledge, and we might not see it again for some time. So give me, for my money, it's what I expect to happen as well. Mm-hmm. I think Ohio State wins by a wider margin. I agree with Zach. I'm a little less confident just because that's me. Notre Dame they could be undefeated. They could have not lost to Illinois or Northern Illinois, and I would still, there'd be something in the pit of my stomach that's like, they're going to wear those stupid green jerseys that have a different color, You remember that, Zach? Like 20 years ago, they had like a weird polyester fabric on their green jersey. They fumbled. Was it the
Kelly green over to Brian Kelly?
No, it was before that. They fumbled like 4 times. And it was like I don't know. It might have been.
It happened a lot, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact time.
It's like quit wearing the green jerseys, dude. It's a curse. We're gonna lose. So yeah, I would probably, I'm the pessimist here. So for me to say that I think Notre Dame is gonna win takes a lot, because I normally am like, no, they suck. They're not. You've seen it, Wade. We've watched a football game together.
I felt like after the Georgia game and after they beat Georgia, that's what really kind of gave me the confidence that they could beat.
He stole Lou Holtz from the Razorbacks.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I don't care. He's right here now. So
they just said some Hail Marys about it, and then they were good.
I don't even know what the heck were we talking about. I lost my train of thought.
Notre Dame, Penn State. We've talked about it a lot. So if there's any final thoughts you have, Zach, on that. But yeah, no, we're just kind of wrapping up Penn State, Notre Dame, And of course, we've already kind of revealed our hands for what we think the national championship would be. So I guess I'll ask you this one, Zach, before we go, because I do have a special episode of Monday Night Raw on Netflix I need to watch here.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. But what needs to happen in order for Notre Dame to beat Ohio State? Let me put it that way for you.
Benjamin Morrison needs to come back from injury. Because if I'm being honest, I feel like that would be the only guy that'd be able to cover Smith. Now he would not be able to. It would be 50-50 balls. It really would be, because I feel like Benjamin Morrison is the best corner that's going to be in the NFL draft. Now I don't know how he's going to be after the injury, but before injury, he could cover, I feel like, anybody. He was that good of a corner. Without him, I see Smith. I see Smith doing some terrible things, but I see Notre Dame getting pressure, because Notre Dame blitzes. I think Al Golden around 50% of the time, or it's like 45% of the time he's blitzing. So it'll depend on if they get pressure. So they're going to need.
That's good.
Probably.
That's the analysis we need. Irish for life. I love that.
Yeah, no, he's not wrong.
Pepper spray is what we need.
No, it's just Ohio State's going to be able to pass on them. I know Notre Dame's got a good defensive back, but when you've got great wide receivers that in coverage, being very well covered, can just stick out an arm and grab it one-handed and pull it in, you can't compete with that. You just can't. Like, that's just great athleticism. And so, and then Notre Dame's going to have to establish the run on offense, plain and simple.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to have to get pressure on Howard, because you're not going to lock down Smith. So you're going to have to get pressure on there, stop the run game. So they have to pass it. That's just kind of how it's going to have to be. And at Notre Dame, you're going to have to create turnovers. But Notre Dame's very good at that. You know, they're in the top 5 on turnover ratio. And then offensively, they're going to have to establish the run. But how are you going to do that without 100%, Love?
Yeah, well, they do have the. Help me with the name now.
Price.
Thank you.
You've got Price, sure,
Price,
but how much of a load
solid.
can he take? But just by himself, because he hasn't had the load all to himself all year. Okay, you got Williams, a freshman. Okay, but what he's really good at. Okay, he runs the ball real hard and strong, but I feel like he's more of a running back, a wide receiver out of the backfield, is what he's really good at.
That's fair. I mean, obviously, I think Love is very biased here, but I think he's one of the best backs in the nation. Clearly not I think we all know who the best back is. When your worst game of the season is 103 yards against. I couldn't believe the people who wanted to dog Jonty for 103 yards against Penn State, even though there's footage of him breaking 7 tackles on a 6-yard gain. And I'm like,
right.
Dude, quit watching the box score. Like, actually, you know what? Keep giving me your box score opinions. They're very easy to see through. But, so I think they could if they had to. Obviously, if Love doesn't play, probably at that point, it's a hope and a prayer for Notre Dame. In order for them to win that game against Ohio State, they really do need to have him. I think they can win this week with Price taking the majority of the carries. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you're right. He hasn't had the majority of the load most of the time, but that's another way of looking at that is he's going to be really fresh, and he's got the playmaking ability is what I truly believe. So I agree that it would take something like pepper spray, top 3. He's also only a sophomore. Lee says press coverage, get one more second for the defensive line to get to Howard. And that, again, to pull from last night's game, that's what the Lions went with. If you think about it, a very similar situation. The Lions' best D lineman injured. They did trade to get someone to add more to the pass rush, but their best pass rushers were hurt. Not very good in the defensive backfield, and they got home all night on the blitz by disguising coverages and sometimes just sending one more than they've got. And as Lee mentioned earlier, made Sam Darnold look very much like the Sam Darnold of old last night. So it is possible to rattle Howard. I mean, we've talked about it all episode about how he's improved, but nobody likes to get hit in the face 20 times and getting their ankle stepped on and their short arm and throws because there's somebody on them every single time they drop back to throw. That could get to anybody. So I think realistically, you guys are all right. Irish is right. Lee is right. Zach is right. Like that's the formula. I've gotten good at this thanks to Trevor and the boys on Wednesday night. Whenever they're building a daily fantasy, you got to build the narrative, right? If you're going to bet a certain way, you got to just tell yourself how the whole game is going to go. And this is the narrative we would need to build. If Notre Dame would beat Ohio State, it would be through that. Wade, what about you? What do you think things need to look like? What's your official guess for the national championship? And how does Ohio State win it all?
Ohio State, they just play like they're playing. They come in and they get the ball going. And you keep our offense on. We get in the end zone. Like you guys said, like if Notre Dame, here's my keys. If Notre Dame wants to win against Ohio State, it's keep the offense off the field. Defense has to pull through and pressure Howard, and you got to keep the offense off the field.
Mm-hmm. Does Rudy have one more game of eligibility? I think maybe that could get people's spirits up if we just bring Rudy out. But people still believe in that, right?
But I agree with who said that? Irish, that Ohio State, if they're playing the way they're playing right now, I don't see anybody stopping them.
He said, as long as there's gas on the bus, they're good. Well, as long as no connecting flights are delayed, Ohio State's got nothing to worry about. Three receivers to the wide size gives deep defenses nightmares. Yeah, trips. Oh boy. Yeah.
I mean, but you talk about like Smith, but you still have freaking I can't say his name, Mbuka.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Coming into the year, that was the guy that, I thought was going to be, all right, this is the next big OSU receiver. And then nope. Freshman comes in.
Then you got Tate as well. So like even if they try to shut down Smith, I think Mbuka is just a top tier receiver as well. And he could get more. Then they're going to have to switch over, cover him. Then you got Smith. So, like, our receivers are stupid good.
Well, Notre Dame likes to run man. So we'll see. We'll see.
It could.
Because Ohio State's been torching people who run man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that scares me, is because that's what Notre Dame runs. Majority of the time, Al Golden is running a man and then sending the house basically in for pressure. Like, hey, my DBs are better. They're going to cover your wide receivers until my linebackers and my DB or my offense or defensive line can get to your quarterback.
Yep.
His game plan in a nutshell.
It's going to be a bold strategy for that matchup.
Yeah. Hopefully he pulls something else out. I don't think that's going to be enough to do it. Not with Smith. Again, if we had Benjamin Morris back, okay, yeah, might be able to get away with it.
Yeah. And I hope Irish for Life is right on this one. That at the very least, it can't be 2012 against Bama.
God, please.
That
I don't want to watch that again. Wait, did you watch that with us?
I don't remember.
Yeah,
I treat that game like Manti Te'o's college girlfriend. All right, that doesn't exist.
Where?
Yeah, where? What game? Where?
Did you ever get that action figure of her?
Yeah, I've got it on the shelf back here, right by my plant.
Shoot, yeah. I think it would be a competitive game. Yeah, I don't think if it's Ohio State Notre Dame's going to come with a chip on their shoulder because the last time they played.
10 men on
It
the
was a
field.
great game last time.
10
And they're
men
going to
on the field.
know. Yeah, you're right. And exactly. Well, they'll have that. Coach will definitely have that. Even if there are players that weren't on the team, they won't be allowed to forget how close it was and how it went down last time. But also, they're going to do a lot more scouting than we are, and they aren't. Certainly, I don't think they're dumb enough to think they can keep pace with Ohio State. So they're going to go into it with a plan, I believe, of ball control. To be honest, I think what separates this from being a very close competitive game and maybe getting out of hand a little early is going to be fourth down conversions, because it's another thing I think we can agree with both of these teams. We're probably only going to see punts if it's fourth down from your own 30. You just get close to midfield and it's 4th and 2 or less. We're probably going. I would think Ohio State maybe less so, just because they have that confidence with their offense. They may choose to pin Notre Dame back, but I don't think Notre Dame's going to carry. Fine, we'll run the ball 98 yards. I don't care. We don't care. That's less time for you to have it. So I could see, especially if Notre Dame has some long extended drives, and then Ohio State, after a good kick return, is now facing a potential 3 and out from their own 42. I think they might go for it on some fourth downs here. Both teams will be aggressive. Notre Dame, I think, has to do that in order to win.
They already are.
And they're already, again, Freeman, I think, I don't know if he knows what a punt is sometimes. I'm like, dude, there's a third option, right? So I think it will come down to a couple of key plays like that, because then Notre Dame can hang around. If they're able to make those big conversions, they'll be able to hang. But if not, then that could open things up very quickly, because all it takes, that Ohio State offense, is a one-play touchdown possibility. As you can see those where score 17 points in 54 seconds, something like that.
Look at the Irish right there.
Yeah, I would say, wait, that sounds familiar. Anywho, gang, John Cena has just made his return to Monday Night Raw, so I think it is time for me to switch gears. If you're into that nerdy wrestling stuff, come look for me on the Wrestling Minute, which will be here on Bite Size Sports and a part of our Carnage Unleashed podcast, which I'm sure Wade and or Zach will tell you more about here in just a moment. Thank you both, gentlemen. I appreciate you so much for doing this. It's been a lot of fun. Honestly, I could probably do this for another 30, 40 minutes if it weren't for Netflixing going on. But Wade, we'll start with you, brother. Any final thoughts on this whole topic? And if not, where can the folks at home find you?
No, I think I said everything I already think. I think now I'm just excited for these games and some good football. But if you want to find me, it will be us three on our podcast, Carnage Unleashed, and the first show of 2025 will be this Wednesday.
Yes. And that's where you'll find me as well. Wednesdays, 7:30 p.m. right here on YouTube. I think that's the only place we're streaming now is YouTube. Be covering all kinds of stuff. the UFC fight night coming up, the odds going on with that. Conor McGregor fight they're gonna be coming up in India. That'll be a fun thing to talk about. I'm trying to think. I don't even know what else we're going to talk about. Who knows? Maybe some hot takes. Maybe we'll talk about what we want to see fight-wise in the combat sports world. So, no, and other than that, go Irish. Oh, Miami. Ooh.
Miami.
You staying there for a couple days, I take it, for the game?
14 degrees where I'm at now. Yeah, I'd stay in Miami for a while too. Maybe hope for some delays on your way back, if you've got it. Oh, that is great.
He's got to be going for the game. He's got to be.
Yeah. I hope you survive that. I'm there till Sunday. There we go.
Yep.
Hopefully the 14 degrees.
For me, please.
Yes, please have a couple for us, without a doubt. And I, of course, will be with these two on Wednesday. Weird schedule for me this week. If you are a fan of movies and comic books, TV shows, video games, all that stuff, you can check out our sister station, Dweeb. We have our weekly show tomorrow at 6 p.m. It's normally Mondays. And then we have Han Shot First, our Star Wars program. Normally Wednesdays at 9. This week it will be Thursday at 9, but we are covering Skeleton Crew, the newest Disney Plus Star Wars show. And so if you want to join us and rant about nerd stuff, that is where you can do that. And here on Bite Size Sports, you can find me Thursdays at 7 p.m. for the Bounce / Supersize Sports, where we talk the NBA during NBA season, and we talk about everything else when it's not NBA season. Of course, check out our Necessary Roughness podcast tomorrow with John and the boys talking everything NFL. And again, Trevor and Josh on Wednesday nights, another damn fantasy podcast for all of your fantasy needs. With the playoffs in play, some of us who maybe didn't make it to the championships, you have new life now. If you want to build some daily fantasy lineups, go check out Trevor. They will build lineups in Underdog. So if you want a discount, if you want some free bets on your first Underdog deposit, you can use the code Bite Size Sports when you do that. So be sure to check that out. Other than that, we want to thank you all for tuning in. Hey, thank you, Irish for Life 99 for the sub. Appreciate that one. Thank you, Stream Elements, for doing your job. We love that. But we appreciate the new subscriber. We appreciate everyone who checked out the show, whether you commented or if you were out there lurking in the shadows. That is just fine, too. We will see you next time. Thank you all so much. Take care.